Hello. Um, okay, so I'm gonna do it again. My name is Uchechku Onwa. I use him pronouns, and I'm one of the co-director with Queer Detainee Empowerment Project, and we're so excited to host this event tonight. Thank you. I'm gonna the interpreters. I'm gonna call one of you to just speak about interpretation.
Hola, buenas tardes. Hello, good evening. I'm going to be doing the interpretation announcement in both English and Spanish. Voy a hacer el anuncio de interpretación en ambos idiomas. Entonces, hola, bienvenidos todos a este evento de QDEP. En este evento contamos con la interpretación simultánea en inglés y español y está disponible para todos no bilingües en inglés y español. Si necesitan un dispositivo, pueden reunirse conmigo en la mesa de adelante al final de este anuncio. Entonces, tenemos interpretación con la finalidad de practicar la justicia lingüística y crear un espacio bilingüe. Dicho esto, le pedimos a todos los participantes que hablen lentamente, en voz alta y con claridad para facilitar la interpretación. Y tenemos ciertos signos por si acaso necesitamos que hablen más despacio, vamos a hacer así. Si necesitamos que hablen más alto, y vamos a hacer así también. Entonces, sí, eso es todo y gracias. Hello, everyone. So for today's meeting, we have simultaneous interpretation in both English and Spanish. It is available for all not bilingual in English and Spanish. So if you need an interpretation device, please feel free to see me after this announcement at the table in the front. We have interpretation available to practice language justice. And so in order to facilitate the interpretation, we ask that all participants speak slowly, loudly, and clearly. If we need you to speak slower, we will be making this hand gesture. If we need you to speak louder, we will do this hand gesture. So thank you, everyone, and hope you enjoy the event. Que disfruten del evento. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Janice. So without wasting so much time, I'm going to introduce our panelists and the moderator, and then we will just get into the evening. So first, I will be introducing Matthew Blaze. Matthew Blaze, I'm not going to read all the bios. We don't have a lot of time to read the bios, but I'm going to introduce Matthew Blaze. Matthew Blaze is an amazing activist that I'm really excited and opportunity to meet. They're originally from Nigeria, been visiting the US, been here since about 2 months, and we're so excited to have them join the panel tonight to help to share stories and experiences of some of the reasons why people are migrating and leaving their home country. Can we give a round of applause for Matthew Blaze? Thank you. The next panelist I'm going to introduce Aneri Zapata. Aneri is an amazing human. I'm so excited to meet and to know Aneri. They're a member and board member of QDEP. Welcome, Aneri. Yes, legs for days. Next, I'm going to be introducing my beautiful and amazing sister, Iman Loke. Iman is the founder of Trans Asylus, and we're so excited to have Iman join us tonight. Thank you. And I'm going to be introducing next Joaris Hernandez, who is also an amazing member of QDEP, who is going to be talking to us tonight. Yes, Joaris. Finally, I'm going to be introducing the moderator of this panel, an amazing human, Tresonia, who you guys will be so wow tonight. Thank you so much. Feel free to help yourself out, food, drink. There's a restroom here. There's a gender-neutral restroom here. There's a female restroom at the other side. So feel free to, help yourself out.
Hello, everybody. Hello. 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 All right, everybody. So we're going to get started. Before I do conversations, panels, discussions, artist talks, things like that, I like to start with a bit of a grounding exercise to get everybody in the space on the same frequency. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep breath in through our nostrils for about 3 seconds, and then we're going to exhale for 5. You want to make sure that your Exhale is longer than your inhale. That's kind of the point, okay? So inhale, exhale. One more time. Inhale, exhale. And it feels so good. We'll do it again. Inhale, exhale. So today's discussion is going to be about the visibility of immigrants in the LGBTQ community. Because people are so often forgot. We tend to focus, especially in this country, on white people. And none of us here are that. So you're gonna hear some voices today. Yay! All right, so let's jump right into the questions. First things first, Josie. So, well, actually, let's start with this. In 1704, the colony of Carolina developed the fledgling U.S. First Slave Patrol. And by the 1880s, all major U.S. cities had police forces in place. The connection between control of Americans and control of immigrants can be seen with the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, prohibiting the immigration of Chinese labor as far back as the 1904, when the U.S. Immigration Service patrolled the border in an effort to prevent illegal crossings. Of course, it should be noted that the Immigration Customs Enforcement, or ICE, didn't exist until after 9/11. So there's a very long history of this country built on stolen land by slaves, trying to keep people out, right? And using violence to do such. So, Josharis, I wanted to ask, your story is your history. How has your immigration status coming to the US from El Salvador impacted your journey to the American dream? And in what ways did you cope and find relief? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was looking at the wrong person. My apologies for that. Yes, so what was your journey here? What was that like for you?
Pues, ante todo, muy buenas tardes. Gracias por su presencia. Mi experiencia salió huyendo de mi país buscando la libertad. Una libertad que hasta la fecha no he podido encontrar. Porque uno sale de nuestros países pensando que América nos va a ayudar. Y la forma en cómo nos reciben a nosotras como comunidad trans, como comunidad LGBTQ, son las peores. El trato que se nos da, el encierro, está pasar por una celda de aislamiento, cuando hay su respaldo es para proteger nuestra integridad, cuando es algo que no es así. Porque desde el momento que nos encierran a nosotros, mentalmente nos está afectando porque nosotros tenemos un trauma. Entonces, ¿qué hace encerrándonos? Es como una tortura que uno tiene porque no hay nada más que pensar que en la problemática que traemos, el motivo por qué venimos huyendo. Luego de eso, las condiciones que se nos dan, tanto de salud, tanto de alimentación, son las peores. Para una mujer trans, no se le ve como mujer trans dentro. Tu ropa es hombre de ropa masculina. A ti, así seas tú, chica trans, no se te da tu ropa femenina. Para llegar a obtener lo que son nuestras cosas de utilización femenina, es un proceso muy largo y de lucha. Aparte del acoso que se vive dentro, la discriminación por los mismos security que se supone que nos deben de cuidar. Entonces, cuando yo salgo y me doy cuenta de todo eso, o sea, ¿qué está pasando? Esto no es América, esto no es lo que se dice de América. Luego tenemos jueces y fiscales muy injustos que quieren que uno presente suficientes evidencias, pero uno encerrada, sola, ¿cómo uno va a poder defenderse sin tener acceso a un abogado? O las evidencias que uno trae no son suficientes. Quieren algo real, algo cierto, que sea reciente. Pero uno viene en un camino despacio, que no tiene los recursos para venir directamente rápido. Me pasó esto y la forma en cómo los tratan. Entonces, es algo, una contradicción que pasa. Entonces, mi experiencia en resumen, lo puedo resumir como traumático. Que tengo es fe y esperanza de que eso debe de cambiar. ¿Cómo? Cerrando los centros de detención, teniendo accesibilidad a la comunidad con recursos médicos. En mi caso fue algo muy traumático porque yo tuve muchos problemas médicos. Incluso que yo la única opción que me dieron fue porque tenía problemas de mi dentadura, es o te quitamos la muela o te quedas con tu dolor. Entonces, y en un cierre de aislamiento, en 4 paredes, con eso, o sea, es algo muy feo, muy traumático, que hasta la fecha ese es un trauma que yo vivo.
I want to ask you, Honorary, as well, like when you were having your immigration process, like when talking about like the trauma of that experience, right? If you could just add, I guess, anything to that, like that experience, especially here in America, where we do have this reputation of being like the free world where you can be free, but we have like the highest populations of slaves, pretty much, people kept in cages in this country. So what was that experience like for you?
Quiero soportar bastante la experiencia de Joaris, que creo que es lo que la mayoría de nosotros pasamos cuando venimos para Estados Unidos. Como decía Joaris, el América que vemos en televisión cuando estamos en Honduras o estamos en cualquier otro país, no es el América, no es el Norteamérica que nos recibe aquí, porque el que vemos no está construido para nosotros. Es lo que pasa. El Estados Unidos que nosotros vemos en televisión no se construyó pensando en nosotros como latinos, como negros, como personas queers. Entonces, cuando llegamos, vemos un sistema que funciona y funciona bien, pero no funciona de una manera inclusiva. Por eso es que siempre estamos hablando de que tenemos que crear nuevos sistemas, nuevos programas en el cual podamos valer como negros, en el que podamos valer como personas LGBTs, porque no es que no funciona, sino que no funciona para nosotros. Y esas son las experiencias que vivimos en el camino desde que salimos de nuestros países, porque a veces hablamos de la narrativa que vivimos en Estados Unidos, pero no de cómo Estados Unidos nos obliga a salir de nuestros países con las políticas públicas que constantemente están llevando para Honduras. Bueno, yo soy de Honduras, o para los otros países, cuando hacen que las personas negras tengamos que abandonar nuestra tierra y solo tenemos la tierra para vivir, cuando nos excluyen del mar y vivimos de la pesca. Entonces es un programa o es un sistema que ya está diseñado para que nos toque huir, y cuando lleguemos aquí nos dan la espalda, porque nos hacen allá no poder permanecer, y empezamos a sentir de que habrá una liberación cuando llegamos a Estados Unidos, y lo que nosotros vemos como liberación ellos lo ven como mano de obra, y una mano de obra gratuita. Sabemos que por muchos años hemos estado construyendo Estados Unidos. Estados Unidos está construido por manos negras gratis, y sigue estando construido y sigue siendo construido por manos negras que no están pagadas bien. Entonces, lo que para nosotros es libertad, para ellos es negocio, desde que ponen esos fianzas en las detenciones. Yo tuve la fianza más baja, que fue $5,000, y la gente estaba celebrando, ¡hey, consiguió una fianza baja! Y yo estaba llorando porque no la podía pagar, porque no la podía pagar. Entonces, y todo eso es un sistema con el cual Estados Unidos, lo que es un negocio. La migración para ellos es un total negocio.
Right. No, that is such a, something that I learned, something that I learned that blew my mind was that, because they teach us stuff in school here, but they don't teach us like the specific information, right? So something I learned was that America made like billions of dollars, like back in the 1800s, when like a billion was like, you can't even, like, we can't fathom $1 billion now, but like back then. But anyways, America was making like, I think like $11 billion off of cotton back in the 1800s. So this was all free labor. So America being a superpower now, like you were saying, is based on the free labor of Black people. And then even thinking about, American foreign policy, if you trace the line of American foreign policy, especially in South America, you can easily see why people are coming here from there. It's sort of almost like a trap. They drive people out of their homes so that they take the natural resources from that land and then propaganda bring them here so that they can profit off of them because they don't give them legal status, so they can't work and have those rights. Iman, I know that you do work specifically with I mean, we all do, but you do work specifically with migrants. And what is that experience like for you? Like, sort of, how do you combat this? Like what they're talking about, how are you doing that work and combating this thing from the inside?
Well, for me, it was different. I came here legally, but even the process to come here, I thought if you come legally, and I was lucky, I was working at the Cairo Opera House in Egypt. They provide me with a letter, and I had somebody that he have to put money in the bank for me to get the visa. So when I was sure everything is gonna be okay, because everyone in Egypt talks about America. I mean, in North Africa, and all my friends, it's like a dreamland for all of us.
Yeah.
A place that you're gonna go there and everything is gonna be okay.
Right, that's that propaganda.
That's everybody say that. So when I arrived here, I had like 2 months of accommodation, but after the 2 months, I didn't know what to do.
Right.
My money is gone. I have a friend that I met in the bar, like I was in a bar and I met, and they helped me to find a lawyer, and she have to get the money from friends for me to get the asylum. But when I get the asylum, that's all. They give you like a food stamp, $80. And I told them, what am I gonna sleep? How I need to, find accommodation.
Housing,
no, nothing.
yeah.
So they let you walk. So there was nothing. I end up, I had a really like a nervous breakdown, and I was really, for 1 year, I was really, doing, I was homeless in the street. I found myself targeted to drug trafficking in a house. So somebody say, I will host you, but that house was full of drugs, and it did not help me and really set me back.
Yeah.
And everything that I dreamed of. And I was like 15 years of my life working at the Cairo Opera House, and I was contemporary dance, and I was a choreographer. I was doing all of this stuff, and I felt like, oh my God, there is a hope for me. But after this, the hope is gone, and I felt, stuck until I met my husband, and, things start getting better because you need the support.
Right.
I love that because he's my husband and he supported me, but also, but what is the other people that support the other, trans and queer and asylum seekers?
The community.
Yeah, the community. There is no base of, organization or the government. Like I worked just to make sure, because say this is not difficult, because in France, I have cases that they already granted asylum, and some of them enter France illegally, but they never, not like ICE, you're only in detention room for 1 day or 2 days.
Yeah.
And then they call local organization to take care of you. And they ask the trans if you want to be with trans people, because they don't want to mix them with other people so they can be safe.
Right.
So there is protection.
There's humanity in it.
Yes, and a protection for like if you're like coming from sex trafficking, you right away they give them housing, and nobody can know. I couldn't even know where they live.
Yeah.
Because it's very protected by the law. So yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like in a way here, your property as soon as you enter the States. I mean, your personhood is kind of stripped in a way, and I. As an American, I'm born, and I haven't left, unfortunately, yet. It was always sort of like a question to me of like, why are people coming here? And it was on top of that, they don't teach us the immigration process either. So they just tell us, you show up, you take a test, and then you're an American. And that's like, and so I was like, what? But why? Like, as a Black American, I'm like, they treat us awfully, like, and obviously, like, people are escaping a lot of things. And you have a point, but I also want to go to Matthew, because when you're talking about and I definitely will bring this back up again, but when you're talking about why people leave, Matthew, I think that you could give great insight on that, of why people are coming here.
Thank you so much, QDEP, for giving me this space to talk about the realities of people in most African countries, and also in the Middle East, where people are still being killed, witch hunted every day for just living. So the question why people come here is just simple. They don't want to die. They want a better life for themselves. And I'm going to like contextualize it in my own country, because I stay in Nigeria and I am visiting the US. I've been here for over 2 months, and I'll be leaving soon back to Nigeria, where I do activism with young LGBTQ people. And most of the stories from them are always very sad, especially for organizers. I mean, you have to take the burden of other people every day on your shoulders just to hold space for them, and also tell them there's hope. Sometimes you know there's no hope, and you just have to constantly assure them.
You have to create it.
Yeah. Talking about the legal status of LGBTQ rights in Nigeria, there are up to 9 laws that criminalizes LGBTQ people in different aspects of the state. In the military, there's a law. In different states, there are laws. In the in the federation, there are laws, and in different local government, there are laws that criminalizes LGBTQ people. So there's no breathing space for you. There's no breathing space for you. And if you say you want to go to other African countries where homosexuality is legalized, you can't even count many of them. You can't. And you have to also deal with other oppression which you face as a Black person in the continent, xenophobia. You have to face that. If you say you want to go to South Africa, you want to go to Angola or these places, it's just that you are not safe anywhere.
There's all these structures. Built
Yeah, so it's just so crazy, and that is it. People want better for themselves. People want to be able to live and actualize their full potentials, and the government in most African countries don't want that, because we know how the system is structured. It's about power. It's about being over the other. They want to strip you of your humanity totally. And people want good life. And they don't want to be stripped of their humanity. So people flee. People flee, and it's very, very valid. It's very, very valid. And coming to the US and getting to realize, or other places they go to and getting to realize that the system is not so much better for them, is completely devastating. Running away from fry pan to fire. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. So why do people flee? They don't want to die. Why do people flee? They want a better life for themselves. Why do people flee? They just don't want to be under any structure that we make them disappear themselves,
and they
just
create
to be
their own
something
hope,
else.
right?
I mean, it's very, very important to create home for yourself. I've been in the US for 2 months, and like, I felt love. I've expressed love. I'm getting to grow in certain ways I never thought I would. I'm getting to realize so much about myself. That's what an enabling environment will do to you. Make you actualize what you never thought you would, and make you a better person. So yes, if people had this opportunity that I had, like getting a visa and coming here, they won't go back. So it's, that's just it.
Henry, you had a point to make as well.
Sí, ¿se me logras? Okay. Sí, quería soportar lo que estaban diciendo nuestros compañeros, porque algo que es bastante, no encuentro la palabra exacta, caótico, triste, pero real, es que a pesar de todas las situaciones que vivimos en Estados Unidos, aún sentimos un privilegio estar aquí. Aún sentimos de que tenemos un poco más de oportunidad que cualquier otra persona en nuestros países, al nosotros ser negros, al ser LGBT, y es bastante triste, a mí me hace sentir bastante mal. Cuando a mí me tocó ser homeless en Nueva York, una ciudad en la que hay millones de personas, y sentirme sola, pero aún sabía de que, estaba viva y estaba aquí. Es devastador para una persona saber que un estado deplorable es lo mejor que puedes tener. Y muchas veces las personas allá afuera, las personas heterosexuales, las personas blancas, no logran entender eso. Y por eso es que cuando tiran sus leyes, no están pensando en nosotros, no nos están incluyendo, porque en ese sistema no hay alguien que nos está representando. Y es lo malo, que las personas que toman decisiones por nosotros no son personas negras, no son personas que se subieron a un tren para venir aquí, no son personas que logran entender lo que sentimos. Y es bastante fácil tirar palabras o lanzar leyes de lo que no sientes. Necesitamos poder llevar a nuestras personas al poder. Necesitamos ser representados por nosotros mismos.
That's a really good point. Okay, I have a very amazing list of questions here that I'm gonna look away from for a second. So you were talking about government, politics, and everybody here is in different organizations and has that experience as well. And I think that, especially with the immense amount of privilege that organizations here have, right? We had a talk and we were talking about like the resources, like in Nigeria, the resources for LGBTQ organizations, it just isn't there. They're not getting it. Meanwhile, America is sending anti-LGBT groups money, right? Here in America, we as the LGBTQ community, all of the gays in the room, have access to these resources, but they're so often given to people that don't look like us, that representation that you're talking about, we don't have access to. And we end up getting erased out of the conversation before it even starts, kind of. And so, we can start back over here with you. Like, what is y'all's experience with organizations? Like, once you're here, once you're trying to get the help, once you're trying to get these resources, what is that experience like?
Mi experiencia acá, pues la verdad sí he recibido ayuda. No puedo negar la ayuda que he obtenido desde que estaba dentro del centro de detención. Por pura casualidad yo me encontré con QDEP y una amiga me dijo, enviemos esta carta a esta dirección, que te tienen que ayudar porque tú estás sola y todo. Y sí me ayudaron con comisaria, con mi boleto de avión. Estando acá en Nueva York, recibí toda la ayuda de alimentación, vestuario, cosas de medicamento que el seguro no cubre. Las he estado recibiendo hasta la fecha, porque no es fácil estar acá sin un estatus migratorio legal, sin un poder uno trabajar. Como persona trans, es muy difícil encontrar un trabajo. Porque dicen, no, es que tú vas a ganar más por una hora haciendo otras cosas que aquí, entonces me vas a hacer quitar el tiempo. Cuando no nos dan la oportunidad, nosotros somos personas que podemos valernos por nuestro trabajo. Todas nuestras personas trans tenemos algo que nos gusta hacer, estilismo, cocina, limpieza, pero vamos a buscar un empleo y no. Y acá con QDEP pues se me ha dado la oportunidad de estar ahí haciendo un voluntariado, y aparte pues con otras organizaciones que de igual manera ayudan de otra forma, con charlas, conocimientos, con apoyos. Entonces, en realidad las organizaciones sí ayudan, a pesar que uno está sola en estos tiempos, pero falta más ayuda, más donativos necesitamos para que las organizaciones sigan ayudando a más personas, porque la migración es algo que nunca va a parar, porque nuestras vidas corren peligro acá, y de donde sea la gente siempre va a venir buscando ayuda. Y como le repetí anteriormente, tenemos un América que se supone que es un país libre. Pero como dijeran, apoyando las palabras de Neri, estamos acá y tenemos esa oportunidad de poder salir adelante. Que aquí organizaciones como QDEP, como otras organizaciones, están para ayudarnos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we haven't done it yet, but shout out to QDEP because yes. Because it's a very good point is that there are these opportunities where that you can find like a home with specific organizations. And I think that I think that's important to keep in mind is that there are people, you know, it's as trans people, or all of us on the stage are trans in some way, it's hard to find that home because people choose not to understand our experience. And that can be a little isolating. But there are amazing organizations like QDEP that are out here. Yeah. Does anybody else want to share their experience with? Or, yes, please.
Okay. Mi experiencia fue un poco aislada, desagradable al inicio, porque yo llegué a Estados Unidos huyendo del sistema hondureño, de mi familia, de mi propio sentir, porque muchas veces quise castigarme, porque pensé que había algo malo en mí y quería apartarlo de mí. Pero algo que siempre quiero mencionar, cuando yo llegué a Estados Unidos, yo no sabía que yo era una mujer transgénero. Sabía que no era un hombre. Sabía que no era gay. Pero no sabía quién yo era, porque no tenía ese acceso a la información en Honduras.
Yes.
La primera mujer transgénero, yo la miré aquí en Estados Unidos en un parque. Yo con 20 años y era la primera vez que me miraba en otra persona. Cuando yo llegué a la detención, que estuve 6 meses detenida, incluso me costó decir que yo en aquel momento me identificaba como gay. Me costó decirlo porque yo miraba la rudeza con la que trataban a todo el mundo y yo venía a pedir un asilo por ser una persona gay, pero no tenía el valor de decirlo porque no quería ser burlada y no quería que todos empezaran a maltratarme en un cuarto en el que habían 100 personas y en el que muchas veces ni siquiera te entrevistaban en una pequeña esquina, sino que todo el mundo estaba escuchando y el oficial diciendo, yo sé que todos vienen a mentir, pero al menos mientan bien. Y yo me sentía tan mal con una historia desgarradora propia y diciéndome, yo sé que me vienen a mentir, pero mientan bien. Salí de esa detención 6 meses después. Cuando yo empecé la transición aquí en Nueva York, 2 años después de estar aquí en Estados Unidos, me encontré bastante sola, muy sola. En una depresión muy fuerte que tuve, en el cual tuve una sobredosis de pastillas. Uno de mis doctores, el psicólogo, me dijo, antes de referirme al psiquiatra, porque me hicieron todos mis exámenes médicos y aparentemente todo estaba en su lugar, pero yo me estaba muriendo. Y el psiquiatra dijo, tú necesitas unirte con personas que sean igual a ti, porque tu silencio es el que te está matando. Yo tenía un dolor aquí, en el pecho, aquí abajo, en la boca del estómago, pero era puro silencio, era pura depresión, era pura opresión. Y cuando a mí me conectaron con BLMP, la organización en la que ahora trabajo, fui a BLMP me conectó con QDEP. Y voy a ser sincera, yo venía todos los martes porque aquí daban comida. Y yo no tenía acceso a comida.
Right.
Y cada martes en la noche yo sabía que yo iba a comer rico porque iba a ir a QDEP.
Yeah.
Y en busca de comida encontré muchísima libertad. Encontré muchísimas experiencias igual a la mía. Muchísimas personas que estaban también luchando con lo mismo, que ya estaban en mejores posiciones. Y aquí encontré vida. Y es tan necesario que hayan espacios como los que tiene QDEP, espacios como los que tiene BLMP en el que yo trabajo, porque necesitamos más personas, como lo dije hace unos minutos, necesitamos ser personas representados por personas como nosotros. Y al encontrar eso, yo encontré libertad. Hoy pueden ver aquí a esta hermosa dama. Y es gracias a una libertad que encontré aquí. Gracias, QDEP. Gracias.
Yes, thank you, QDEP. Thank you again. That's so beautiful. Iman, can you tell me about your organization, Asylus, and the work y'all do?
Asylus.
Asylus,
Yes.
excuse me.
Asylus is a Greek word because all my life as a kid, I never fit around my family. I didn't fit in my street. I was persecuted everywhere you go because you're feminine and people hunting you. So it was a dream to have a special place to trans people so they can, share stories and share their pain, and they can see someone went through these experiences so they can talk to. So it's a Greek word, come from like a special temple that people can go and feel safe. So come from there. And Trans Asylus is work started when I was in Instagram, and after the lockdown, I was haunted by every fear, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to die. And also George Floyd happened, and the killing of the Black trans in America by week, like every 2 days
every
you
other day.
hear there is a girl, she's been murdered, she's been burned. So all of this, it really affected me every day. And while, we all were on Instagram every day, I mean, with the lockdown, there was a girl from Yemen that was a war, and she contacted me, her name Ritaj, and she said, I looked at her and I see the blood on her, and I didn't know what is this, and I was like, what's happening? She told me I'm fleeing Houthi. Houthi is a domestic terrorist in Yemen, and they control Yemen, and they kill anyone infidel, a woman without a veil, and first it goes as the transsexuals and the queer, but the most visible ones is the trans. So they were hunting them. So she was talking to me, and I did all my best to get her out. And from there I see how, like, I didn't know how can I do that work, but I did it, and that work, I continue that work, and I start working with other trans people to make them have, the same way, the life that I have.
And so specifically, your organization is helping people like get asylum to come here.
To go to safer countries.
Safer,
I mean,
okay.
I did not bring anyone here still because the lack of, help. If you get asylum, most of the cases I send them to France. I have 4 cases in France. They granted asylum. Actually, Ritaj, in the airport, once she get an asylum, they put her, what's your gender? Woman, right, woman. What's your name? My name is Danny, her name now. So they allowed her to change her name, her gender, without going to the judge, without waiting. I'm still Ayman. I'm still a man in my ID. After transition for 10 years, and it's still not working. I mean, the system, it's crazy.
Yeah.
All of them, they told me, oh my God, I changed my name. All of them changing their name, they changed their gender, and I'm still suffering with that.
So that's an interesting space to hold, right? Because you're helping people in a way that you aren't getting that help yourself. I mean, and we laugh, but it's the irony is kind of like upsetting because you've been going through this for so long.
Yeah, but I want to put my frustration and my anger,
Right, yeah.
because there is this wave of hatred against trans women and trans men, because the most vulnerable of all, and in your face. That's why people take advantage of them. That's in Africa, in North Africa, if you go to YouTube and see Kakoma camp, how they treat people there. and they murder them and they kill them. So that work makes me like, because I came from a place of this similar situations, I don't want people to go through what I went through. I want to save them when they are young and they have future, so they can go. Some of them now they go to college and they try to learn. They are young and they look at me as their mom because you
helped them.
I helped them.
You gave them their new life.
Because
in a way,
their family, they don't want them. So they feel that connection. So I have this, network of trans men and women around the world now. I have a trans son. He's in Netherlands. He's safe. His family tried to kill him. And I can hear the conversation. And that was the most scary thing.
Right.
And like Saudi Arabia, it's honor killing. And changing gender is not allowed. So that was the urge me to and also I speak Arabic.
Right.
So most of my cases are Arabic or Jamaican too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew, to piggyback on that, in your experience, how do people decide where to go? And and what's driving these decisions, and how does amplifying this reality challenge usual immigration narratives? To finish the question.
I think when it comes to decision-making processes of where to go to, I think people consider mostly where they have the economic advantage and also where they have like the social advantage too. Places that are LGBTQ right friendly and advancing women's rights too. So people put this into their decision, especially those I've had conversations with. I mean, there was this time I wanted to leave Nigeria, and actually this was what I thought. But it's not always the case for some people. For some people, they just temporarily want to get out. They just want to go somewhere. They don't care what it is. I mean, there was this time I was considering that too, and my friend was telling me about going to Turkey and spending some time in Turkey before I go to Germany or somewhere. And knowing that Turkey is not LGBTQ friendly like that,
right?
I wasn't so bothered. I was ready to just take it,
right,
and just go. If it's the journey to get into a safer place, then I'm willing to take the journey. So for some people, they don't put these factors into consideration, and it's actually so crazy at the point that our government makes it very, very difficult for people who want better life. They make it difficult for them to access it. Very difficult for them to access it. When you're following the latest conversation about the UK putting their settlement for people who want to flee in Rwanda, people actually think about these things. You're going to the UK, you want a better life, and then you're being taken to Rwanda where people don't talk about homosexuality at all. Right. So it boils back to what you said about inclusive work. Okay, fine, you say the system is working. Is it inclusive? What does it mean to people like me? If I'm going to Rwanda, am I able to live my life? No, because in Rwanda, you can't say a lot of things. The language is very censored, and people want better life for themselves. Also, for people migrating to Germany, sometimes they have to go, especially those in Eastern African countries, they have to go to Kenya and seek a refuge in the Kakuma camp. But then the cases of homophobic violence we hear from the Kakuma camp every day is so unbearable. I mean, some time ago, a group of straight people, cis heterosexual people in that camp, the same camp, looking for refuge, went to the gay section of it and burnt the place down. And a gay man was burnt down. not even a male, a trans woman was burnt down. And till today, no accountability. It's gone. Think about what that person wanted with her life. She wanted a better life for herself. Think about how she wanted to go to Germany and make that better life for herself. But due to the political implication of all of this, she's unable to go to Germany. She has to be in Kenya and stay in Kenya for some years after fleeing from Uganda. I mean, sometimes I think the government needs to do more when it comes. They're actually doing nothing. Because when it comes to these conversations, there's urgency to it. It's very, very urgent because people are being killed every day. People have been thrown out of their houses. I have a friend who had to go through the Sahara Desert just to get to Italy, cross the Mediterranean Sea, just to get to Italy. He witnessed people die in the desert. He witnessed people drown in the sea, and still had to go there and face unbearable conditions. It's more than politics at this point.
Right, yeah.
It's more than politics. It's giving a human face to all of this struggle, because people that make this decision, as one of the panelists said, are white, as privileged men who have their mansion somewhere, who do not care, who do not give a fuck, but they come online to say they care, but they don't care about lives at all. And for queer people, their lives are like the least of it.
Yes, please.
Because you mentioned Turkey, I helped a trans woman. She was 19 that time. She was in Egypt. She was persecuted, and I helped her to flee, but I could not get her to Europe or any other country. It was very difficult. The only country that she could go to, it was Turkey, and she applied for the UNHCR, which is America, and recently I have to get her an apartment because the money is not enough for her to live. And where she is, she's in they put all the refugee in one area, So they all, most of, and also when you're a trans woman around Arabic refugees or cis men refugee, you will get harassed, sometimes killed, and this happened in Turkey. Turkey is not a safe place. But also recently, there was a guy, Syrian guy, he raped her, beat her up, and she had to go to the police, and then the UNHCR just talk to her and say, okay, we want to help you to move, but nothing happens. And she being raped,
Right.
and and she went to the hospital, but they're not listening. It's just like her life has no value at all.
It's like trans people trans people fall through all of the cracks between all of the intersections. So, they don't care about trans women because they see them as emasculated men, but then they still rape them and they still beat them like they treat women. And so there's this in-between space. That's truly, truly sad. You had something.
Gracias. Quiero decir algo bastante rápido.
Please.
En su mayoría, las personas como yo, las personas negras LGBTs, no decidimos dónde ir. No es como cuando nosotros vamos a ir de turistas a Miami, de que decidimos a qué hotel vamos a ir a quedarnos, cuántos días vamos a estar y vamos a regresar. Porque no estamos yendo de turistas. Nosotros estamos huyendo, ¿no? No decidimos porque es ¿dónde puedo vivir? Es la pregunta que uno constantemente se hace. ¿Dónde puedo vivir? ¿Dónde puedo caminar? Porque aunque nosotros podemos ver algo normal, el caminar aquí, yo he visto muchos videos y yo viví la experiencia de caminar y escuchar culero, mariquita, la niña, un sinfín de palabras cuando yo estaba en Honduras. Entonces uno no es que una noche se sienta y hoy decido que voy a ir para Estados Unidos. Es ¿dónde puedo ir? Con estos 20 pesos, ¿dónde llego? Y después de que se me gasten esos 20
Right.
pesos, ¿cómo voy a avanzar para llegar a un lugar en el que pueda comer tranquila y pueda dormir en paz? Es bastante triste y es algo que no sé, yo creo que no tengo las palabras exactas para poder explicarlo, pero nunca me voy a cansar de decir, nosotros no migramos, nosotros no nos vamos, nosotros huimos y huimos porque necesitamos salvar nuestras vidas.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Yes. I don't really have the words either. That was perfect. Would you? Yes, please.
Sí, yo quiero agregar algo respecto a lo que dijo Neyri. Nosotros no decidimos. En mi caso, yo salí huyendo del 2016. Llegué a Guatemala, que es mi primer país cercano. Y la situación allí era igual o peor que mi país. Pero para llegar a cruzar a México, ¿cómo lo hacía si yo estaba sola? Fue otra travesía que yo solamente con mis creencias, yo pude llegar a México. Estando en México, tuve la oportunidad de pedir asilo. No gané asilo, pero gané protección complementaria, que es parecido al asilo, en el 2016. Pero en México no puedo vivir yo. En México está la discriminación, la transfobia, igual. Como bien dicen, sí se aceptan los matrimonios igualitarios, pero el problema es la población no nos acepta a nosotros. El rechazo que uno vive. Entonces, vengo acá a América y me dicen, no, tú puedes vivir en México porque tú tienes asilo en México. Pero si mi vida corre peligro en México, ¿cómo yo puedo vivir ahí?
Right.
Si mi vida corre peligro en mi país, ¿cómo yo puedo ir a mi país? Y otro país a mí no me puede recibir. ¿A dónde voy yo? O sea, ya no tengo presupuesto para yo llegar a otro país. O sea, mi única opción ahorita es América, ya, quedarme acá en los Estados Unidos. Y es por eso que yo tuve problemas de suicidio también, porque yo no le voy a dar el gusto a otras personas que me quiten la vida. Prefiero quitármela yo antes que alguien más me la quite. Pero ahorita, pues, gracias a Dios, estoy con ayuda de los terapistas, los psiquiatras, y estoy tratando de manejar eso, de que no me afecte, porque ahora yo vivo por las personas que están en un centro de detención. Por esas personas que me dicen, no te des por vencida, tú vas a lograr, tú lo vas a ganar tu asilo, espérate en paciencia. Entonces, sí es muy difícil, la verdad.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I actually think maybe we should take a quick moment for a second and have another breath break because, you know, this kind of stuff is very real. So, short inhale and then long exhale, okay? There is love in this space. And I just want to extend my love to everybody on this stage. And I want to thank you all so much for being here. It's not over, but I want to say that now. When things get so heavy, and even like I was saying before about the intersections and falling through the cracks, here in America, a country full of immigrants, we have a huge, huge, huge problem with xenophobia. And being trans women, being Black trans women, right? That's already something that here Black trans women are persecuted. I don't want this conversation to bring us down, right? How are you taking care of yourself? Like, I don't know. I want to ask a lighter question. Like, how do you bring yourself joy, right? Because I think that especially when we live this life, when y'all are going through these immigration struggles of this giant machine, right? That seems so much bigger. I have found in talking to people that when your problems are bigger, your joys are small, but they are so impactful. where are you finding this joy, and how do you I guess allow yourself that when you are going through these long-term struggles? And that's for anybody who would like to.
Bueno, yo en lo personal me ha ayudado mucho estar con el programa que tiene QDEP, que es el programa de correspondencia por amigos. Yo he conocido personas que están en un centro de detención, que me hablan y me dan palabras y me dicen, porque yo caigo en depresión muy seguido, que no quiero salir, que me duele la cabeza, que el ruido, por todo el trauma que he pasado. Entonces ellos me dicen, hazlo por mí. Yo aquí estoy encerrada, estoy encerrado, sal al parque y hazlo por mí. Y aunque a veces yo no tengo deseos, porque digo, me puede pasar algo, como decía Neyri, acá todavía uno vive eso, que te digan, yo en lo personal no sé hablar inglés, pero cuando he ido con alguien, nos dicen medication, o toma tu pastilla, o culero feo, cosas, insultos, que digo yo, lo bueno que no sé hablar español, inglés, pero mi amiga se pelea con ellos. O a veces uno va caminando por las calles y te tiran una escupida sobre los pies. Y ese es mi temor, porque digo yo soy una persona que me sé controlar, pero cuando yo me enojo, reacciono de una manera violenta.
Period.
Y tengo una orden de deportación. Y eso me puede afectar en mi caso.
Yeah.
Entonces yo por eso a veces yo caigo en la depresión de no querer salir, de no hacer nada. Y mis amigos que están en el centro de detención dicen, hazlo por mí. ¿Sabes qué? Quiero ir a la playa, ve a la playa, hazlo por mí. Y me mandas fotos, yo las veo acá, yo puedo recibir postales. Y eso me motiva a mí a luchar por ellos. Y dices, ¿sabes qué? Cuando yo salga, yo te voy a ir a visitar, tú no estás sola. Pero eso es algo que yo le agradezco a Cuida, porque a raíz de ellos yo he conocido muchas personas, y así como otras organizaciones también que yo he conocido en las reuniones. Tengo mis amigos acá presentes que también me brindan su casa cuando estoy sola, y pasamos de convivir. Y estos programas así también ayudan, porque uno conoce más personas, ya te ven en la calle o te ven en otra reunión, te saludan y te das cuenta de que tú también eres visible también, eres importante.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. I mean, talking about these little things that bring joy. My work as an organizer in Nigeria is sometimes like drains me completely due to the stories I hear. Queer people, especially trans people, they are always being targeted on dating apps like Grindr, like those apps. And most of them are lured to places where they are beaten or they are given drugs to the point where they can't move. I had to deal with a case sometime back at home where this trans woman in Nigeria, in Lagos, had to call me and say, Matthew, I can't work because I visited this guy and he gave me so much cocaine and I couldn't do anything. So she couldn't even speak. I had to raise fund at that point. I got to her house, took her out, and we had to put her in a hotel for 3 days until she got herself back. And other people that have been killed for just meeting men online and knowing that you can't ever get justice for that puts you in a position where you ask yourself, what are you ever fighting for? Because at the end of it, the killers get away with it. Our community is still at higher risk, and the conversations are not even going forward. So for me, I think what brings me joy at this point is just the little spaces I am able to hold for people. The joy they get from those spaces matters so much to me. People come to queer spaces that I organize and they talk about how it's their first space and how it's their first time meeting another gay person, how it's the first time meeting another trans person, how it's their first time meeting another intersex person. I was like, I am so happy that I am able to hold this space for you. Your joy gives me joy. And for me, as little as that can be, it's very impactful in my life. And also providing materials to trans men, gender non-conforming people who need them, gender alignment materials like binders. I remember working with an organization here, and we got like 200 pieces of binders, and we distributed them to different people, and the joy was so, oh my God, I still can't describe it.
Right.
How something as little as a material, as a piece, can just bring joy.
Yeah.
And learning so much about these tiny things that you talked about, your friends just sending you pictures, your friends just assuring you of how much they love you, they bring joy. And yes, for me, it's just those little things, just calling me, the joy of another person while receiving a gender affirming gift from me, while receiving a queer gift from me, the joy of a space. So these little things that don't matter to a larger number of people, like, bring the most joy to me.
Yes, please.
No sé si funciona. Yo tengo varios programas que me traen mucha emoción. Yo trabajo en BLMP, como dije anteriormente. Tengo un programa que se llama Garifuna Trans Talk. Hay un programa de niños de 9 a 12 años que va a empezar ahora en julio. Tengo un programa Garifuna General LGBT que funciona 2 miércoles al mes. Y hay un sinfín de actividades que hago en las organizaciones, bueno, en las que trabajo y en las otras organizaciones en las que colaboro. Pero siempre trato, aunque tengo mucha emoción en ello, siempre trato de encontrar un espacio en el que pueda encontrar un descanso y una emoción más personal. De que si un día solo tengo a Neiri, pueda ser feliz con solo a Neiri. Porque muchas veces nos aferramos totalmente al trabajo, a las actividades, y no encontramos un minuto con nosotros. Y cuando llega el tiempo que nos toca encontrarnos, no sabemos qué hacer con nosotros mismos. No sabemos. Entonces, en mi casa yo veo muchos videos, yo salgo a caminar, nado, hago bastantes cosas para relajarme, pero trato de tener paz y disfrutar de mí. Trato de hacerlo. Y quiero invitar a los compañeros también a que lo hagan, a que puedan salir a caminar, no solo porque otra persona no está para hacerlo, sino para que sepan de que ustedes merecen estar aquí. Ustedes merecen salir a caminar por ustedes. Ustedes merecen salir a la playa, merecen hacer todo porque ustedes, su cuerpo lo merece. Tú mereces estar aquí.
Yes.
Tú mereces estar aquí.
1,000%. 1,000%. Please.
So all my, like, even when I remember when I was a very young kid, I love dancing a lot. I dance, and I always have a big personality. I hate the sadness of everything, and as a child, and I can see my family, oh, you cannot do that, and I go up to the roof and I say, okay, no, I don't want to say a bad word, but
Go ahead. We're all adults here.
I say, fuck it, and I just go upstairs.
Period. Yes.
Period. Here you go. So I go to the roof and I start dancing. I go to I jump from, in Egypt, like literally my building, I can jump to the other building. So I go to this other kids and I leave all the drama. And my family, they're always looking for me. So I had this personality when I was a young age. Even I came here, even when I was homeless, people didn't even know that I have a problem. I try to ignore because I look in the future because that pain is gone. It's already happens. So I try all the time to, renew myself and try to forget what happens and dance and cheer other people and have a drink and talk about other things. You know, and also I love, go, the gym is very important to me. So I was my frustration and my anger doing Pilates, spinning, like really sweat, like using water around me. So that really, and belly dancing too, because belly dancing, it's kind of like a beautiful dance, and it's very sexual. And it's not loved when even it's an Egyptian dance, but it's not really loved by the Egyptian, because my mom said, you can know that, you're gonna go to hell. I'm like, I'm gonna go to hell no matter what.
Send me
to hell. I'm sure I'm going. I mean, since I was young, I know I'm going to hell. So
that's what it sounds. It sounds like that's where all the fun people are.
I know. Thank you.
No, exactly. It sounds like that's where all the party's at. Growing up myself, being in in the South, in the American South, there's a lot of homophobia and transphobia and stuff, and so. Someone had said it before that like you didn't know until you were in your 20s. I didn't know. I didn't know because I knew I wasn't a man and I knew I wasn't a woman, but I didn't know that I could be something else. So I just always felt like this is weird. Like I hate this pink shit, but blue doesn't really suit me that much either. It's not really my color. I actually like purple, and there wasn't a space for that. And so I found myself being I took on like a hyper masculine persona and was very toxic, and it was corroding me away on the inside. And it wasn't until I finally was with myself, having that time with myself, where I was like, "You're non-binary," and I was able to say that and own that I started feeling that joy. Where no longer I didn't feel that acid burning away a hole inside of me anymore, and I want other people to have that, right? Like you want other people to have that. Like Matthew was saying, like when you see other people, when you see that acid leave other people, that also brings joy, Oh my gosh, this has been such a conversation. I want to go back around to visibility, right? Especially as trans people. Visibility is a double-edged sword, right? Because we want people to see us so that way we're normalized. But when we're seen, often, unfortunately, presently, we're fetishized. We're immediately sexualized, and either punished, people are trying to send us to hell, or they're trying to, put themselves on us. So you end up with these situations where in order to feel accepted, you turn towards sex or these kinds of things because those are the people that want you. And so that visibility in that way can be hurtful. But there's also this fight and this pull toward, I want you to see me. How do you walk that tightrope with you in your life? Yeah, please.
Ok, ahora sí. Cuando hablamos de visibilidad, es un tema bastante extenso. Es bastante extenso. Porque quiero que me vean por quién soy, que respeten quién soy y que acepten quién soy. No. Entonces, el tema de la visibilidad, no sé ni cómo empezar a abordar este tema, porque la cosa es que nos ven como algo, no como alguien, y quieren hacer un espacio, un tercer espacio especial. Bueno, no especial de la manera especial, sino que un tercer espacio discriminatorio. Sí, yo he escuchado a muchos decir que a mí no me importa a qué baño vayan, con tal que vayan al baño que esté vacío. Entonces, nos están teniendo allí, pero no nos están respetando allí. No. Yo quiero de que sepan de que las personas transgéneros merecemos estar aquí, que no somos personas enfermas, no. Somos personas de que merecemos estar, de que hacemos un gran labor en la sociedad. Y no importa qué hagamos, existimos y por existir merecemos respeto. Porque muchas veces ligamos el respeto que damos con qué posición puede tener una persona. Vamos a respetar a este negro si este negro es Barack Obama, pero si este negro es el que está en las calles, a él no lo vamos a respetar, ¿no? Entonces necesitamos ligar el respeto con el ser y con el ser humano, con el ser humano. Tú mereces el respeto desde el día que naces. Desde el día que naces. No me importa lo que vas a hacer cuando seas un adulto, mereces respeto porque constantemente estamos peleando por vidas de no nacidos. Y cuando nacen, si nacen negros, le quitamos el derecho. Si nacen trans, les quitamos el derecho. Si nacen LGBT, si nacen un sinfín de cosas, los dejamos sin derecho, pero peleamos para que nazcan, ¿no? Entonces, la visibilidad que quiero es poder estar, poder ser y poder ser representada también. Muchas veces veo en la corte, hace 2 años, cuando fuimos con Ushe a una marcha, y estaban hablando a favor de las personas transgéneros. Al menos la corte estaba queriendo entender, pero en la corte no tenía ningún empleado trans. Y en la televisión estaban hablando de las personas trans y de las personas trans últimamente, pero quien te está dando la noticia es una persona cisgénero, un cisgénero blanco o una cisgénero blanca que no está entendiendo, ¿no? Yeah. La visibilidad que quiero es que me representen. Siempre he hablado de esto. Que me representen las personas que sientan o que me permitan representarme. Y quiero también una visibilidad en la que no pueda hablar una persona que no sepa lo que está hablando. Porque es lo que pasa. Hay muchas organizaciones, bastantes organizaciones de personas blancas hablando por los negros. Y de personas no trans, de personas no LGBT, hablando por las personas LGBT. Y no es lo que queremos. No queremos esa visibilidad. Quiero que si quieren apoyar, puedan sentarse en la parte de atrás y dejarnos ir enfrente. Que nos permitan liderar nuestros propios movimientos. Que no se escuchen. Que no tomen decisiones sin nosotros, ¿no? Porque no le voy a agradecer a ningún blanco que hable por un negro. No te lo voy a agradecer. No le voy a agradecer a ningún cisgénero que hable por un transgénero. No estoy agradecida. No, fuck, no. Merecemos los espacios y merecemos ser representados por nosotros mismos. Gracias.
Period. And tell them a black trans woman said it.
Oh my God, I mean, this conversation is just so fucking intelligent. And, I would like to look at it from another angle, and it will come from, I would like to look at it from the aspect of fetishization. Fetishization and the fact that it's actually not our problem how people receive our visibility. It's on them. Our own job is to be true and authentic to ourselves. And how they receive it is not on us, and it's on them. So it also makes me think about how trans bodies, how non-binary people are fetishized in the community, within our environment. People would rather want to have sex with us in the dark and not publicly support us. People would like to want us to fulfill their sexual fantasies and not support us at all. So it just brings us back to it that how people choose to receive us is actually not on us. It's based on their own problematic and very, very transphobic view of us. Yeah. So I think it's high time we start taking power away from people, start taking power away, because they feel so powerful when they're able to make a wish and it comes true. And I think we have to take power away from people who think they have power over us. And that is by not giving them attention when they think they deserve attention. by not listening to them when they think they have to be listening to, by just shutting the door and not allowing them walk in, by telling ourselves constantly how powerful and how important we are to the world and also to ourselves. I mean, if we're able to take power away from people who just see us as bodies, objects for their own sexual fantasy and like just object for whatever gives them pleasure, then we take that power away from them.
Yeah. Period. Fuck the fetishizers. Don't fuck the fetishizers, I mean. Don't fuck the fetishizers. I'm on.
Well, visibility for me, it's a big fight because of the human, being a man and a woman. So it's something when they see, it's if like you're not a human. But if you just ignore my gender and who I am and treat me like a human being, then I'll deserve this visibility because I deserve it. I'm standing on this ground like everybody else. And yeah, like people, they will deny us visibility because go back to the religion and how people being taught this is wrong and this is right. So they see us as this demons in front of them. That's how they deny our visibility. It's like seeing evil. Because somebody is telling me about your visibility has been like you're being an evil to me. In the beginning of my transition, and for me as Iman, when I transitioned, I was visible. I did not have setback with myself because already I've been denial in my own country and my own family and the government. So I'm not gonna discuss this. I'm visible 24 hours. People like it or not. And if they don't like it, they can walk away. There's another road they can walk. I go to the bathroom right away. I don't have any problem. I never had a problem with women or anything. Even they have a problem, it's up to them. Come and fight me, So, people, if they really are alive, if they really want us to succeed and to live our visibility to the fullest, they need, like Henry said, to put us in the first line. Because it's the most vulnerable of everyone, and we're always persecuted for no reason. We could be arrested walking the street. It happens to me before the, walking while you're trans, that bill last year, and allowed, there was an officer, I was walking, and my husband, he was in the hotel, and I was walking to him. I was just walking, and he just grabbed me, kidnapped me, for no reason. And I did the community service, I don't know, and she told me, do you have problem with sex? Are you... Like, I don't have a problem with sex. I don't have anything. You want to ask my husband? So the questions, it was about you, about your visibility and your walk. You're walking with a dress and heel and being yourself.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't understand it.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, but the best thing that happened to me, to be myself. And I think everybody should be happy when people being themselves and tell the truth. Because so many people that are not even visible with themselves, cis men and women, and they are confused. But when you see people are happy and just show up and they are happier that way, should be happy for them. That's all.
Para mí, la visibilidad es algo muy bonito y a la vez malo. Porque ser visible no debe ser sinónimo de violencia. Porque muchas personas, por ser visibles, han perdido la vida. Por ser visibles, han sufrido golpes, maltratos, discriminación. Ser visibles, para mí, es ser yo misma. Yo no necesito que alguien me vea como lo que yo realmente me considero que soy. Porque ahora en día yo puedo venir como mujer, yo me considero una mujer. Para ustedes puedo ser una mujer, pero si yo mañana quiero venir como vestirme como un chico, no quiere decir que voy a ser mañana un chico. Yo soy lo que yo soy, o sea, lo importante es lo que yo siento por dentro, que al fin del día es lo que yo me llevo, como decían mis compañeros. Si quiero entro al baño de hombre o al de mujer, o sea, ¿cuál es el problema? Pero no me voy a aguantar las ganas de orinar porque el baño está lleno, ¿no? Yo voy a entrar al que esté más vacío. Ser visible para mí ha sido algo muy doloroso, porque yo no era la persona que soy ahora. Para llegar a ser la persona que yo soy ahora, he sufrido la violencia, la discriminación, y también entiendo muchas personas, como decían a mis compañeros, que están escondidas todavía, no se atreven a salir por temor a la violencia, pero sí nos ocupan en sus fantasías, sí existimos para ellos en sus fantasías, pero después de su fantasía nosotros somos nada, solamente nos ven como un objeto sexual, como algo pasajero, pero nosotros sentimos, nosotros vivimos, nosotros tenemos nuestros gastos, no es prostitución. Pero, o sea, ¿cómo tú me vienes a decir que quién soy yo? Que no estás viendo lo que soy. O sea, para mí la visibilidad es muy importante y creo que estamos acá en Estados Unidos y más acá, pero en mi país, si tú eres visible, si te vistes de mujer ahora y mañana te vistes de hombre, lo peor, si es que alcanzas a estar vivo o si es que sales sana y salva de las personas, porque tú haces eso, es como una burla, dicen ellos, que nosotros hacemos esto.
Fuck all that. fuck all that. You know what I found? People have problems with themselves. The trans people that I've met they've been the most pleasant human beings. You know, they've shown up as themselves and they're so happy and joyful. And the hate that they experience is so disproportionate to the hate they put out. You know, and I believe that anybody that has any issue with something, it's because it's something that they see that they don't like about themselves. They don't like the reflection coming back at them. So often there's, like, for me, when I was, a kid dressing masculinely, it was, well, who the fuck do you think you are? I'll fuck you up. Like if I wanted to present as masculine, a man would want to beat me up because he would think that I'm trying to challenge him or something. And I'm like, bro, if I wanted to challenge you, I'd fuck your girlfriend because she's been all over me all night. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm just saying, like, it's there's these ways in which people bring the hate into the room, is what I'm saying. That people don't want you to be themselves because they can't be themselves. And so to see you happy brings them pain because it reminds them of how much they hate themselves. Yeah. We are running towards the end, but I do want to give an opportunity for people in the audience to ask questions if they'd like. I don't know if we're prepared for that, but maybe we can get some hands if anybody would like to. Ask question? Nobody? Anybody want to ask a question? Please. Do we have mics going around, or maybe we can? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes. I think, is it on? Oh.
Can you hear me?
There it is.
Thank you to all the panelists for sharing your truths and also some of the challenges that you have faced in your personal struggles and also as activists. And I was wondering, as activists working with people of different migration statuses, it sounds like you also came before some of the policy changes that have made it especially even harder for particularly Black and brown, queer and trans
1, 2.
asylum seekers and immigrants to enter the country, like the Remain in Mexico policy, like some of the decisions of the Supreme Court, even, you know, in the last couple of weeks, that would make it, you know, legal for the government to detain immigrants indefinitely before, you know, getting a hearing before a judge. And then that's before you even get into the country and go through the long, complex, like, immigration process. So as activists, I guess I was hoping, or I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the barriers that you face. Aneri, you said it really beautifully about centering queer and trans people to speak for themselves in this space, but occupying both spaces as activists for migrants and, you know, and asylum seekers and queer and trans people. Where do you see within the movements barriers for you to do that, to be, you know, for you to be able to kind of take the center mic, you know, and advocate for the community?
Yeah. Hi. By centering, you know, Black, trans, and you know, queer asylum seekers, you know, I think there is no system here actually for doing this, but there is when they say you can abolish the border, people take that word as we want no police patrol, or, you know, I really would love to abolish the border of educating them how to treat migrants, especially trans and queer people are coming. So they need to, we need to educate them, or we can also work with the government, because there is, you know, Biden himself, he gave the Ukrainian, he guaranteed them for 100,000 people and give them status, give them everything. Why don't you do it for the queer and trans asylum seekers? And if that already happening, so we can also do this. And if you need help, there is other organization, my organization, QDEP, and we can vet these people. I do process, like I vet people when they wanted to have an asylum, we can vet them. We all can do that work. But I feel, like you say, this is the Ukrainian, so it's an issue with this country. There is a lack of communication, and they don't care if you're trans or queer. They just don't want you to be here. They don't want you to come here. But we need to, as an organization, myself as an activist, I would love to work with the government and start vetting people, especially trans people, the most vulnerable all. And when they are in the camp, most of the people that were in the camp, they get raped and killed by other refugees. So they are in danger. You have to get them in faster than anyone else. So this is work. It should be like, you know, all the organization complaining, oh, how we know they are trans? You vet them. You vet them. You meet them and you vet them. And you will know, you know, it's not like, you know, hiding. They will understand and be a conversation. So you know, I hope that one day that we can have an easy access, you know, to the country, and people can get in that are, you know, facing persecution.
Another question? Oh, go ahead. Over here. Yeah.
Hi. I have a few questions. One for you, Matthew. How is navigating the discussion and the history of queerness and transness in Africa with the execution and the things that are being experienced for queer and trans people, and explaining like colonial ideologies that are being input and now are killing the very people. And so how is that conversation with those in power, with family, and things like that? How is that taken in, and how do you move into that discussion?
Thank you so much for that question. So I think the African government at this point still are very, very uneducated when it comes to issues around queer history in Africa. And this can be largely attributed to colonialism also, and its ability to erase erase history and also past realities of people. So it's so crazy that in Africa, most of our leaders they are very, very homophobic, and what they see as a typical African culture are actually colonialist mentality and colonialist ways of doing things.
White supremacy.
When we talk about dressing, when we talk about the way law in Africa is, the judicial system, when we talk about the government makeup as it is, when we talk about almost everything is from colonialism. But when it comes to the issue of queerness, talking about the authenticity of queerness in African history, it just seemed to be impossible to have that conversation and bring their memory back to when we weren't colonized, when people could be people, when it wasn't as rosy, but people can actually, queer people had this certain roles in African culture where they are very, very respected and seen. So I think African leaders need to actually challenge themselves at this point. I also think they know the truth, and they are just so interested in erasing us. And it's at the end, it's power. It's about power.
And there's resources given to it too.
I mean, once they're able to wipe these people, they get like so many resources from other bodies. So the conversation is ongoing. I mean, with social media now, we are having conversations around LGBTQ rights and colonialism and the effect on culture. I mean, people are seeing these resources and they are getting aware. So I think we just need more people to be educated on this issue, because most people do not even know. They do not know that like these practices existed in African culture. And once we're able to, as a collective, come together, educate people that are willing to learn, give them these resources, then they're able to challenge the system in whatever ways it comes. But at the moment, they are actually being violent to queer people when this conversation comes up. Their response to it is threat. Their response to it is violence, is killings, it's just ways of silencing you entirely. So you don't have that abominable conversation. The work of activists are like very, very visible. They are risking their lives to continue this conversation. And I think there is hope.
Yes, greetings and salutations to the great panel that's here. First, I want to say, before I mention my comments, I want to congratulate everyone that's up there, including the moderator, because I have a friend that says when we do things like this, it's not a safe space, it's a brave space. And, you know, you all have shown tremendous courage in just telling your story and your experiences. So I want to acknowledge that first and foremost.
Thank you.
The second thing I want to say, my actual comment, is that I've been attending panels like these for about close to 12 years now, in every borough except Staten Island, because that's just too far. And basically everything that I heard here tonight, I heard almost 12 years ago at the very first panel I've been. And from then till now, there's been little to no progress. So Blaze, is that how you pronounce it, Blaze? Blaze mentioned power, but Blaze was referring to power on a personal basis. And what's missing in our community is the ability to take systemic power, to take power inside the system. And I've always advocated, I've been advocating more now, that what we need is an independent political party that will organize amongst ourselves, that would, you know, raise money with ourselves and promote our interests and our rights as human rights, because obviously the people that we've been depending on and voting for and spending and giving money to, they're using our identities and our representation, you know, for identity politics, but they're not doing anything, right? Right now, at this very moment, as we have in this panel, the Democrats are in charge of the federal government. That means ICE and Border Patrol and all those agencies. And they also control both houses of Congress. Mm-hmm. So they can actually write laws, whether it's about to protect abortion, to protect LGBTQ plus rights, to end student loan debt. They have the power to do all these things, but they have so much contempt and hatred for poor people and working people, because most of them are millionaires, and most people don't even know that. 60% of Congress, both houses, are millionaires. Biden is a millionaire. They don't care about us. So what I'm proposing, you know, and I said this almost 12 years ago, is that we have to find a way to create our own independent political party, organize money with ourselves. And I'll say this lastly, without power, as you know, Blaze mentioned, change is not possible. I don't care what you want to do. If you don't have no power and you can't make things happen in the system, you can't create policies, you're just screaming in the street, right? And we're a country of 100 million activists, but nobody wants to take power. It's how things are going to change. So I'm just going to, because I could go, anybody that knows me can tell you I'm quite loquacious. I can literally talk about this all night.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, because Uche is giving me the look. He's giving me the look.
I mean, I could say something to that. As an American, with all of the rights and privileges that being an American affords me, that power isn't really accessible. They don't want us to have it, and I don't think that we're gonna get it by building another party. I think that politicians are pretty corrupt as it is. And every time that we see a politician go into that place, as soon as they get the power, they also get the donor money, and our power goes away. So I kind of want to like pose like, what can we do outside of that? Because at this point, political power in America, the country is corrupt, and the government is crumbling. There are ways like what you were talking about where you work with them, but you take a hold of their process. I'm interested in those kinds of solutions of how can we take how can we take their power, and instead of going in, we take it from them and they just don't have it anymore. So when it comes to policing, we control our own neighborhoods instead of the police coming in, brutalizing us, and throwing us in prison so that we can work for free for a corporation that the government gives money to. The government, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of questions that brought up more than answers. I don't have any answers. Did anyone want to? Please.
This is the reason I create Trans Asylus, because I felt, I'm complaining all the time. Oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this. Why people don't have their asylum? Why did people in ICE captivity? And for me to create my organization, also Uchi creating QDEP, because he went through the same problem. And nobody's, what are we gonna do for you? So you have to do something. It takes work, but it's possible that you can create something and help other people and take that power from the government so you can protect your own people, the people like you. So, I agree with you with that, yeah.
Also, because I haven't talked about myself, but I started doing mutual. I learned the word mutual aid in 2020, and then I immediately jumped into it because I thought it was so fucking dope. And for those that don't know, the concept is that people help people. That the power or that the resources go directly from the people that have it to the people who need it. And I like that, as opposed to politics where it's someone arguing on behalf of someone else, and then hopefully somebody with power can help them eventually, and then by the time it actually gets anywhere, it's all watered down. That politically correct, and that's where the identity politics and stuff plays in. So I will throw the question back at the audience. What are ways that we can take our power back?
Self-governing. And I think that if we took lessons from those people, instead of assuming that we have to build it ourselves from the ground up, it would seem a lot less scary. Like there are, I want to say 680 currently recognized tribal governments, and all of those are to some extent self-governing. And so there are actually a lot of lessons within the jurisdiction of the US that are currently available if we listen across lines.
Period. Indigenous peoples were here first. They had, oh my God, I won't get into it, but they had a whole fucking nation before certain people showed up and ruined everything with disease because they're dirty. What's the next question?
I wanted to add to that.
Please.
About taking,
because I'm gonna get mad.
How do we take our power back? I think that what we're doing here right now is part of, how we're taking the power back, because we are organizing. We are educating ourselves on the issues. So I feel like the first thing or the most important thing is community organizing through, building the community, educating the community on the issues, centering those that are directly impacted on the issues and letting them understand that there is power in their story. And with that story, they can actually change and take back the power that has been stolen away from them. I think that's one way that we can, take our power back. But then, I have a question.
Yes, please.
I have a question for the panelists. First of all, thank you so much for an amazing conversation this night. But I'm curious about what messages do you guys have for Biden administration around Title 42? For those who don't know, Title 42 is Trump racist policy that was put in place since 2020. Quote unquote, to prevent folks from coming into the country because of COVID-19. But this policy has now been a policy against Black people, because we saw what happened last year when Asian migrants were trying to come into the country, how they were being treated and sent back. About 14,000 or even more were sent back, and how Afghanistans and Ukrainians have been welcomed into the country because they are whites. So I'm curious to hear from the panelists what message you guys have for the administration, specifically around Title 42.
I really just mentioned this about all the measure to that Trump put in place, and there's all the to discriminate against Black and brown people. And but we need to, just like I say, like we need to work with the government by vetting people and take this measure out. And we have to, because he knows, Biden himself, that's both to discriminate against, you know, Black and brown people, but the one who really infected the most is the LGBTQI plus community, because you know, and like I say, he need to work with other organizations like European country, the government. There is so many organizations that do that work, because there's so many organizations and the government. Because I understand maybe he's busy, I know, with everything that is happening. I understand, but he need to work with local organization, and if there is a, you know, a major, like a big, huge migrants coming from Mexico, and you can go like QDEPs, you know, here, do contract with them for vetting these people and know who's your people. Okay, the LGBTQI plus people. Okay, Trans-Asylus. So many other organizations, Rainbow Road in Canada, all these big organizations, they need to do that work, but only if the government allows them. You know, this is, you know, my message to him. If he wants a solution, he should, you know, work with local organization and help them to vet these people and to do your work, because, you know, this is the main issue now. Are we gonna do that work, or you just ignoring, or, you know, I don't have a trust. He said that he's gonna get my back, and I didn't see my back or my front or my down or my up. I don't see it. Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else want to talk to Joe Biden? I got something I want to say. Joe Byron. No. No, I actually have nothing to say to him. I think that you are all amazing people, and I'm glad that I got to speak with you. And every time that I get to do these kinds of panels, I am so grateful that I'm not talking to Joe Biden and his constituents. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. You know, these conversations are so lively, and there's so much life that we all have. So if there aren't any more questions.
I think we will just take one because
one
of
more?
time.
Let's yeah.
So I don't know.
I think that Miss in the green had one earlier. Patricia, or maybe okay.
Yes, I just want to say to you guys, I understand everyone have a story, but your story touched me, and I can relate to each and every one of your story. You understand? There is no way for us to just get up and get power. We have to come together. You understand? Stay in our organization and fight this struggle. And it takes a real fight. You understand? And we have to stand for each other. And I must say that I give QDEP thanks. As she said, every Tuesday you come for the food. I come for the food every Tuesday too, girl. I be home and I'm stressed out. I just speak to my counselor and she said, okay, Patricia, so you're gonna go down to QDEPs now? And I said, yes, and I come to QDEPs and I will help pack up the chair because I just don't want the meeting to be over because I'm suffering inside. Understand? And I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Thank
so
you so
happy.
Much. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And a huge thank you to everybody in the room right now. Thank you all for sharing space with us. Thank you all for hearing everybody's stories. We are our stories. We are who we are. And so every time a trans person gets to be who they are in front of a crowd of people, an angel gets its wings. So I want everybody to have an amazing night. I don't know if there's more food, please eat it. If there's more libations to be had, please have it. If there's more joy to spread, please spread it with each other. All right. Thank you to each and one of my panelists tonight. You guys have been absolutely amazing. And I'm just so, so, so grateful to share this space with you all. Thank you. Gracias.
Gracias.